We have here a 2007 Toyota Camry Solara, and there's a lot of shuddering that's going on at high speeds when you hit the brakes, and of course that's commonly related to the brake rotors. Now, of course, brake rotors can overheat and warp, particularly if they're the cheaper brand, generic type, or they're the OEM or original equipment that's been turned several times due to brake work. So we're not going to bother turning these again, assuming that they may have been turned. And we're going to go ahead and replace the rotors along with the brake pads or brake linings. So the first thing we want to do is to jack it up securely, not just with a jack but also with a stand, and be sure to use some blocks behind the rear wheels as well. And we'll pull the wheel off and get started. Next, we're going to remove the brake caliper and bracket. In order to remove the bracket, you'll have to first remove the caliper. And there are 14mm bolts at the top and at the bottom. They'll need to be removed. And it'll allow you to flip the caliper out and remove it along with the brake pads. So loosen both bolts and take the caliper out. Use a clothes hanger to mount the caliper on the frame out of the way so that you don't put pressure on the brake line, because the caliper is heavy and you don't want to put too much pressure on the brake line and cause a hydraulic leak. And so that's important. Just use a clothes hanger and wrap one side around the caliper, another side around strut, for example, just to hold the caliper out of the way. So as you can see, we now have the caliper disconnected from the bracket. You can see the pads. That's the outside pad, and the caliper is hanging on a clothes hanger. So you can see that the clothes hanger has been adjusted to wrap around the strut in order to support the caliper. Next, we're going to remove the brake pads or brake linings from the outside and the inside. And in order to remove the caliper bracket, there are two bolts located on the inside that must be removed in order to disengage the bracket, because the rotor goes inside the bracket. So in order to remove the rotor, you have to first remove the bracket. So next we're going to use a 17mm socket to remove the bolts that hold the caliper bracket into place. you.